All right, welcome everybody. Sunday night, time for Global Strangeness. The best show on earth to bring you all the creepiest, scariest things going on in this world. We are three strangers getting to know each other a little too well sometimes. Brought together by the love of all the things paranormal, spooky, and just downright weird. So myself, Deborah, Scott, and Jeremy. And each week, one of us picks a topic that we'd like to talk about, and it was my turn. And I wanted to get into all the missing people in the national forests because there's a whole lot of theories around this. First of all, a flip, there's a whole lot of missing people with really weird circumstances. I mean, obviously, some people just go missing, they wander off, get lost, probably get eaten by bears or who knows what. But there's a lot of people that it doesn't make a lot of sense. They kind of disappear under weird circumstances and shouldn't be missing, and they do. They just kind of vanish. So
I did have one question.
What's that?
So for me and Jeremy, they are national parks.
Yeah, that's what I looked at too. Yeah.
Then there's Canada. How does that play into the equation?
We have national parks too. Not much different. My God. We obviously have serial killers, aliens, and government stealing people out of them as well.
They're now people. They're all now called His Majesty's Parks.
Oh yeah, I guess. Oof. Anywho, so do you guys want to throw out? I mean, there is lots of conspiracies. Do you want to start there? What are your thoughts on it? What's going on?
I listened to a fuckload of these all day today while I was working around the house. And I did notice that a lot of people report bears who will scoop up people and run off with them and then take care of them. And this was all for the people who were found later, not dead.
The bears took care of them?
Yeah, no, from 2-year-old kids to 12-year-old kids. It was pretty weird. It was a weird, common thing that I listened to 30 to 40 different stories, and that one kept popping up. So Bigfoot, I thought that's
Bigfoot Jeremy, does that, right? Yeah.
We can't hear you, Jeremy.
As much as that's many people's dreams. No, it's not bears. It's kids say it's bears because that's what they know, but yeah. A lot of times the way they describe it, the parents are like, a Bigfoot?
Even some of the parents were like, yeah, no, I saw a bear. At the same time their child was lost, they saw a bear running through the forest. But I thought that was instantly what Jeremy was going for, was Bigfoots.
It's always Bigfoot and aliens, man. Everything is.
What about government stealing people for underground tunnels for experiments, underground? Because that's a theory out there. They're snatching up people and doing all kinds of scientific experiments.
They just take the homeless. They don't take people in the woods.
I don't think that's always true. I think a lot of these cases, though, are people who are just one step away from this, and they're like, maybe I'll disappear. That sounds like a good idea. And then they run off into the woods.
And so there is a theory about feral people. And I'm like, damn, that sounds fun. Exactly that. They run off into the wilderness and become wild animals because they're just head of society.
Well, I mean, I'm not even thinking wild animals. They run off into the national park, and this train yard or train rail takes a very sharp bend where they can count those 5 bolts, and they run on that motherfucker, and they're on next town, and their name was Jason, but now they're Pat.
Oh, I see. So they're just skipping town, but they're taking the scenic route.
Well, I just going from town to town, living like a hobo.
But do you think there could be people that just go off and live like Mowgli the Jungle Boy? I want to think that. I think that's fun.
When we were traveling, me and my wife, there was this place called Pirate Village in Oregon. We never got to go there, but yeah, it was a bunch of crusty kids that went off and lived in the woods. self-sufficient style.
Maybe that's what Bigfoot is. It's just humans without, shavers.
Might be. Look at Jeremy.
This is art,
on,
Scott.
dude.
This is called art.
Yeah, that's art.
This is called.
It's like
What
science.
happens without a shaver, dude?
I refuse to touch my own beard. It goes against my religion. I prefer to have
Oh,
professionals
come on,
touch it.
You're cleaning a little of this up here.
No, I'll go to my guy and pay $10 and get it cleaned up. Like, I'm not touching it because I do not have skill of any kind when it comes to art. So
Well,
no.
Jeremy, if you're going to be feral out in the wilderness, I don't know if your guy is going to be, you're going to make it to town every week for that.
If you think I'm being feral, Deborah, then you don't know shit about me because I can't live without Wi-Fi. I can't live without electricity. I can't live without food, a place to cook my food that's not a fire pit. Like, I'm good. I hate camping. I'm good.
You really
that's
pay
hilarious.
somebody?
Yeah,
Shit,
man.
I've been cutting my own hair for like 25 years now.
I'm going to
Probably
sign you up
longer
for,
than
what's
that.
that show,
Holy
Naked and
shit,
Afraid?
dude.
I'm going to sign you up, Jeremy. You're going on that. You're going to live off the land with nothing. Good grief.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm not. I am not living off the land. You'd have to drug me and drag me into the wilderness to do that.
Well, we can give you some drugs. That won't be a problem.
Yay!
You looking uppers, downers, in betweeners?
I prefer sativa, so uppers.
Anyways, on that note, let's kick it off. So of course I'm doing Canadian missing people in the national parks because I wouldn't either. There's plenty of them to pick from. So, and please excuse my research this week because, well, it's just shitty. So straight up, I just printed off some stuff. But I wanted to start with the Nahanni Park. So it's in the Northwest Territories. So it's way up north. So it's really remote, really remote area in the Nahanni Valley. And it's huge. It's over, 30,000 square kilometers along the Mackenzie Mountain Range. And it's centered around the South Nahanni River, which is like this awesome whitewater river. And it's, there's a whole bunch of canyons there and you have to fly in. There's not a lot of roads like this. When I say remote, it's remote area. So the bear, they're 10 times bigger, moose, all that wildlife. It's really big, very rugged. So it's really actually kind of cool. So anyways, the national park, it was a popular route to the Klondike Gold Rush, which I thought this was interesting. Incidentally, where Donald Trump's grandfather started the Trump family fortune came out of Canada, out of this gold rush, I guess. I don't know if that's true or not.
Really?
According to the source, that's what it says.
That's cool.
So there wasn't a lot of gold found along there. There's some old prospectors or whatever, but a lot of people went up there. And that's including two Métis prospectors, Frank and Willie McLeod. And their headless bodies were found along the river in 1908. So just headless bodies floating along.
And you said Macy?
Métis.
Oh,
Métis,
okay.
yeah.
You said Trump. I thought maybe they were connected to the Macy's family.
Oh, no. Métis
Okay.
prospectors. So anyways, and then, so there's been a whole bunch, 44 people have vanished or disappeared from the Nahanni Park by 1969. So it's quite common. So again, because it's so remote, animals are so big, and it's obviously not heavily traveled because it's so remote. I could see people encountering big bears, whatever, or starving to death, or whatever. But that's still a lot, right? So, anyways, and there is another. So those, the headless bodies, the murderer was never found. So nobody knows what happened to them. And then other dead people have been discovered, including Martin Jorgensen. He was found in the ashes of his cabin, which had mysteriously burned down. And like the McLeods, a foot shorter at the top, so his head was gone. So serial killer out there? I don't understand why a serial killer would go to such a weird remote place.
That's one theory though, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they're finding bodies here, so there's 44 people who have vanished. So, but could they all be kind of victims of the serial killer as well? I'm sure some of them are natural, but.
Did you guys notice any one of the things I noticed with a lot of these 411s is that people's boots are missing?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
I don't think that's weird. I thought that was like right there's wolves in every place where because it we'll get into where it travels later, but there's
Yeah.
wolves in every place where these 411s go, and like fucking dogs eat shoes, right? Like they smell a human inside of a shoe, then they notice it's chewy, and then wolves run off with it, and it's like a fucking natural dog chew toy. I think
I guess, but like you'd think they'd eat the
I think they'd run off with it.
body.
Like wolves travel miles every day, and then it's like their toy. They're all fighting over it. I think those fucking boots could be gone because that's like leather. It's animal skin. It's
Yeah.
super chewy. They're playing with it. Like, I thought the boots thing was the least compelling argument for these missing 411.
Do you ever like wonder when you're like driving down a random road, especially out in the country, and there's like this random shoe in the middle of the road? Do you ever like, who is that? Well, who's missing a shoe? How did that happen? It's so weird.
Tweakers.
Is that what it is?
Tweakers. It's 100% what it is. It's 100% tweakers or just someone who was too drunk and didn't realize their shoe fell off till they got home and their feet are bloody.
Yeah, no, tweakers are drunk that lost a shoe, 100%. Well, maybe 99%. The other one can go to the paranormal. We'll give it that.
I wonder more about why the hell there's like shoes over power lines. Like that mystifies me.
Oh, dude, we used to do that shit all the time. You steal somebody's
Throw
shoes
them up.
and throw them up. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My mother would have whooped your ass if you did it to me. Just saying.
I have a feeling most mothers would have whooped Scott's ass.
Oh, you know, most mothers did hate me. Now you're bringing back bad memories.
I wasn't loved as a child.
So, anyways, back to this Nahanni Park. I thought this was interesting. So apparently there was an original peoples of the Nahanni, the Naha. So it's a mountain dwelling tribe, and they lived in the region 10,000 years ago, and the whole tribe disappeared, gone, and then nobody knows what happened to them. So I thought that was kind of not cool, but interesting that these disappearances up in this particular area it's been happening for a long time, and the original tribes that lived there is wiped right out, and nobody knows why.
Do you think any of them, like, you know, nowadays we have these cults. Do you think any of these Indian tribes like drank the Kool-Aid and tried to jump Hale-Bopp's comet out of here? And it could be a possibility.
I definitely, but wouldn't there be a
Just
bunch
saying.
of bodies around? Like you find their,
Well, maybe they went to like a sacred place.
yeah, I guess.
And like you said, most of that fucking like Canada wildlands, like it's not very trafficked. And then you got a lot of animals. It's like, oh, look at this buffet.
Yeah, like you literally have to get in there by boat or float plane. It's not, you're not just traipsing along there one Sunday afternoon. So it is, yeah, I guess. But you would still think somebody would have found if there is an en masse suicide or, you know, transition like that, you'd find something, remnants of it, wouldn't you?
What year was that though? Like,
well, it just said 10,000 years ago.
oh yeah, 10,000 years ago. Nobody's fucking looking for that shit, dude.
Well, you think people find things all over the world that are pretty flippin' old. So archaeologists are interested in this stuff, but it is pretty rough terrain. Like it's pretty cool. You feel like you're the first person going there. So anyways, that's it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it kind of makes me think of though, like for the American version of that, like the Roanoke colonists. Like what
another cool story.
Oh, I heard I'm gonna find that podcast on the Roanoke, but I found a podcast where they like pinpointed this motherfucker. So like the captain that went back, he actually trained because it was on a trade route. And then he's like, everyone disappeared. They just picked up and left. They think he transported those people to Florida. And then there was like a bunch of shipments and shit stolen by pirates. And then like, he thinks that all the fucking money was going to this colony he took off Roanoke Island. So that one's pretty fucking interesting.
But his daughter was there, like he had family there, right?
Yeah, and his daughter was there to the new island in Florida, and he's making fucking bank, dude, stealing from the king. Like that shit
Yeah,
makes
maybe.
a lot of sense to me. I gotta refine that podcast, and I'll share.
Wasn't
it
there
with
like
you
a
guys.
little message on a tree that was kind of vague or whatever?
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's what the Roanoke is, right?
Yeah.
No,
Or
it was
Croatoan.
Yeah.
Croatoa. Yeah. And I mean, American Horror Story did like a decent job doing the story of it, but like they really didn't explain the reasoning because they can't. No one can. But I mean,
Did you ever hear that podcast? I'm pretty sure it was one of the Parcast podcasts where like they did detailed description on
if it was
how-
Unexplained Mysteries, maybe. Yeah, maybe I did.
I think it was like a one woman solo podcast that went into it.
Podcast is all solo people doing podcasts that are just right.
The conspiracy podcast, isn't?
Oh, some of them have
There's
two
two
hosts,
of
but I
them,
mean,
yeah.
Unexplained Mysteries is one, I believe. At least it started out that way. They may have added someone like halfway into it, but I don't know. It's been a while since I listened to any podcast. It's been a good year.
I'll find it this week, and I'm telling you, when you listen to this podcast, you'll be convinced that this motherfucker was just ripping off the crown. Good for him.
That could be.
Good for him.
A
America.
lesson Canada hasn't learned yet.
All right. Well, anyways, back to Canada and our missing people. So then the next thing I did, it's called the BC Triangle, because this is sort of a triangular area of BC that all these different people go missing. So these kind of get, these go into a lot more detail. So in July 12th, 2002 in Whistler, Brian Douglas Fondon, he traveled from Montreal to Vancouver, and he wanted to do this what's called the Moose Run Tour. So it's a circular bus tour around British Columbia and Western Alberta, and it would begin and end in Vancouver. And so it was conducted by this company called Bigfoot Adventure Tours, and so it's just kind of this cool vacation thing he was doing on his own. And so before he jumped on the bus, he went to the Vancouver's Mountain Equipment Co-op, and he asked an employee about good hiking and scrambling destinations around the Whistler area. And so this employee or whatever recommended Rainbow Mountain, which overlooks, it's a peak that overlooks the town's eastern end or whatever. And so they went to Whistler that day, and he rented a bed at a now defunct youth hostel called Shoestring Lodge. That's a good name for a hostel. Shoestring, like sounds shitty, cheap, efficient. Anyways, at 9:57 the following morning, he departed from the hostel, and he left his passport, his tent, his sleeping stuff behind, and he just told one of his roommates he wanted to do that climb to that peak that employee had talked about, and not return. He might not return to the next day. So he was just going to kind of go do a day trip to a like outdoor camp, but not like fully set up a tent and whatever. He's just going to make a little temporary shelter and whatever. So he was wearing a yellow backpack, and he had an ice axe attached to the rear when he left the hostel. And he asked the Bigfoot Adventures guy directions to the Valley Trail, and he went on up there. And so anyways, when he finally set out on his walk, the weather was pretty calm and sunny. But late that night, a bunch of heavy fog and pouring rain rolled into the area. And he didn't return that night. And nobody really panicked because he had said he might not. He might just do an overnight thing there. But then he was still missing on 8 a.m. on July 13th. And the tour bus was scheduled to depart, right? Like he was part of this big tour, and he wasn't there. And so the hostel gave the guy like an extra 2 days to return because they thought maybe he just stayed out there longer. The tour bus took off. But then after 2 more days, the hostel phoned the cops. So like they let him sit out there. I'm thinking, wouldn't you report him quicker than that? But they didn't. They gave it a good 3 days. And anyways, they started to search for him on July 17th. And there was a bunch of nasty weather, and his brothers flew out there to help look to Whistler, and they couldn't find him anywhere. And they postponed the search on July 20th because of the weather again. And then on July 21st, they decided to terminate the operation altogether. And I don't mean to laugh, but they didn't, like, that's not very long, is it, to search for a missing person?
Well, that is something I actually noticed listening to all these cases, and that's kind of the conspiracy. Like
why are they looking for them?
outside of the conspiracy, a lot of these people, they're missing persons within like 3 hours. First off, you have to be 24 hours before you're a missing person. But the conspiracy is that these people are missing, and for the first couple of days, there is a lot of like rescue team out there and news coverage, and then it just like they fucking forget about these people. So
yeah,
it's
like
kind of
that's
like
fast.
the national parks are trying to like either to not dissuade people from coming to the national parks for the tourist dollars, or like they know some shit's out there.
Oh,
they
you
do.
think it's bad for tourism, so they just shut it down quick.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's where I'm going with it.
that's
The
terrible.
It's the government. What do you expect? But I mean, and two, they know stuff. They know stuff's out there. There are so many videos of and interviews with park rangers who retired, saying like, "Oh yeah, we know about Bigfoot. We know about dogmen. Like they exist. We've seen enough evidence they exist."
I
Like,
swear to
there's-
God, this dog man came out like 3 years ago, dude.
No, it's been
Swear to God.
the Rougarou has been a thing for hundreds of years, Scott.
Yeah, the Rougarou.
Okay, well, anyway, so the next case out of these, out of the BC Triangle, is Rachel Bagnell and Jonathan Jetty. So on September 4th, 2010, in Pemberton, it's this young couple, and they fell in love, and they, basically they had a month-long manhunt. So these people's disappearance took place in amongst, there was another person, Tyler Wright, who had vanished without a trace on August 10th, 2010. So they were already doing this big search for this Tyler guy. And then these two came along, and they were kind of star-crossed lovers. They had a long distance relationship going. And so they were going to do this trip just sort of as before she had to move away for her schooling or whatever. They were going to spend Labor Day weekend together. And in the Cayush Mountains, northwest of the village of Pemberton, in the heart of Lillooet.
Come on, Deborah. This is Canada.
This is Canada. You
This
can't.
is not. I'm from Alberta. I'm from Alberta.
Okay, is it Canada?
Yes, it is.
At
least when I fuck up names, it's like Indian and African and Australian
Oh,
names.
shut up. By the end of the podcast, you can't even pronounce your own name. So quiet and have another drink. I sound better.
I couldn't even pronounce that right, but whatever.
That's hilarious.
Drink
So
some more
anyways,
tequila.
Jonathan, the boyfriend, I guess he had a knee injury, and they planned to spend 3 days tackling, scrambles, which I guess is just little, maybe, I don't know what scrambles are, like up lifts and stuff, maybe a little bit. And so they packed climbing helmets and an ice axe and a book on the scrambling in the southwest of British Columbia. So it sounds like when you're going like, straight up and you're using
that's like
ropes and
rock.
equipment.
You said it was scrambling?
Yeah, that's what they call it, scrambling. So anyway.
Oh yeah, when you scramble up a rock face, it's when you climb up a rock face.
So on September 4th, Jonathan picked Rachel up from her sister's residence, and they drove up the Sea to Sky Highway from Vancouver, and the extended weekend came and went without any communication from the couple and their families. So they stopped. Last they know, they went through Tim Hortons, which is so Canadian, and that's kind of the last thing that they were seen doing. And then they went on their little trip, and they hadn't been in contact with any of their families or anything. But then when Rachel failed to return to Vancouver on Tuesday as planned, because she was going to go move somewhere to go to school. So her sister got really kind of worried about it because she had definite plans. She was going to be back. So the following day, she alerted the RCMP, and 2 days later, the Mounties did an investigation with a missing persons report, and they discovered Jonathan's vehicle parked about a kilometer up the Spetch Creek Forest Service Road. So the service road was just like a gravel road kind of in the middle of nowhere, right? And they could found the two empty Tim Hortons cups, so that video footage of them being there was correct, yes. And his cell phone was inside the vehicle, but the camping equipment was missing. So I don't understand why he would leave his phone if they were going to go set up.
I got a story about that on mine, which is highly suspect.
So
they set up this search. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So let me get this straight so far. They went out in a boat, and then they went.
Oh, shut up.
If I would do it every episode, it's not an episode, goddammit. I even did when you weren't here, for God's sake. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And nobody knows where they are.
I have the definition of Canadian scrambling. So it is the same as what we would call hiking. Most mountaineers start off as hikers with natural progression to scrambling/hiking. We define scrambling as easy climbing requiring the use of hands and feet, but no ropes or belays or protection.
So that's what they did when the British came, right?
Yeah, they went hiking.
Yeah, when the British came, they're like, "We're gonna scramble out of here."
So, anyways,
so we got some Canadian lingo down. We're good to go.
So yeah, it's just fancy word for taking a walk, I guess. I don't know, scrambling. That makes me feel better because then I can say I'm scrambling. That does sound like you're a lot more of an outdoor enthusiast or something than, walking over to. I'm scrambling on over to McDonald's across the street there.
Yeah, I'm scrambling in the Walmart.
Scrambling.
Do you guys have Walmarts? You have Walmart.
We have some Walmarts.
Canadian or
unfortunate.
The Australian people didn't have Walmarts. They had big W's or something.
Yeah. That was Brock that told us about that.
Okay.
So anyways, they did the search for these two and they never found any of the campsite stuff ever. There was another woman who's out hiking. And they put out a call. They had what do you call it? The helicopters going, they had volunteers searching. And it was really kind of weird though, because the cop in charge or whatever said that they've never not found somebody. Like, this is not an area where you'd really actually get lost, because if you go in any direction, not too far, unlike the Nahanni, this is like you go just a little ways in any direction and you can find a main trail.
Highways.
Yeah, and then main trails, and you wouldn't get lost there. It makes zero sense.
You said this was in 2010, right?
Yeah. And so they did have some weird, they had some weird, like somebody one time saw some smoke in, and they thought maybe they were living, like, the feral people, they just went out and they were trying to be lost. But then they investigated, they weren't there. And then somebody else saw a whole bunch of birds pecking at something. So they thought they might be bodies, and it wasn't them. They've never been found. But the cops are really just kind of scratching their heads about this one, because you shouldn't get lost here. You just, if you just kept walking in a straight line in any direction, you would be able to get your way out of there. So it doesn't make any sense. But they vanished. Poof.
This is where I would love to, like, individual cases, see where the railroad bends are. Because those motherfuckers probably just jumped on and went to America.
Scott, I grew up with my grandmother telling me, because the graveyard my family was buried in, that we went to all the time to visit graves, because I don't know why, but that's just my family. Like, there was actually a railroad going through the graveyard, and my grandma would always tell me, be careful down in this part in the back. You're likely to have a hobo drop off and try to kill you. And I'm like, I highly doubt that's going to happen.
Oh, the FTRA is real, dude.
And she wouldn't go down there by herself because she was afraid a hobo would come down and do horrible things to her.
Yeah, well, you watch the FTRA news videos in 1990. They're fucking pretty bad people.
I didn't think they still existed in 1990. So yeah,
they still exist now.
Ooh. Well, so, and then I'll do one more. There's a bunch, like, there's a stack, like there's a lot of missing people in this triangular area of BC. But this next one I'm gonna talk about, especially because you're talking about the train track. So this is Darcy Brian Turner. So on June 20th, 2011, this is in the Stein Valley Park. So exactly 9 months after Jonathan Jett and Rachel, the last one. So these seem to happen like close together, all these, right? Like that other guy was missing, those two went missing, this guy, just 9 months later, like these are happening really close together. And anyways, he was really experienced, physically fit. He was 55 years old, Métis outdoorsman, named Darcy Brian Turner. He headed into the Stein Valley River on a vision quest.
It was a he, and his name was Darcy.
Darcy could be a man's name too.
Darcy's a man's name. You've never heard that? Anyways, so he was going on a vision quest, which is like an annual solo wilderness retreat that he does every year for 5 years. So this guy's really experienced outdoors. He does this all the time. It's not really a big deal. So he had to arrange for a friend to pick him up on June 19th. And he was wearing a blue jacket, a blue and black jacket, an orange shirt, and hockey pants, and a blue-gray baseball cap, and hiking boots. So everybody knew what he was, what he looked like, what to look for, whatever. And he was carrying a big backpack, and he had a sleeping bag and then tarp and everything. So he's going to tarp, create his own little tent or whatever in the wilderness kind of thing. So anyways, he went out into this, and the Stein River, it's a tributary of the Fraser River, which is like a great big river. And anyways, I'm going to skip over all the stuff about the river.
How does it compare to our great Mississippi River? Is what I want to know.
Well, then pull up a map and compare.
Oh, snap.
Snap, right, Jeremy?
Anyways, there's a whole bunch of, it's kind of really cool. There's a lot of ancient Indian pictographs painted in red ochre. Is that how you say that? So it's kind of cool. Like there's artifacts and stuff to see. It's a very sacred place. It's a very spiritual place, right? So that's why he would do this in this area every year. And anyways, he never showed up. Like he was supposed to be out there for a set amount of days and then meet his friend, and he never showed up. And on the 19th, and the friend reported him to the RCMP because it's very strange that he would not make his rendezvous. He's done this trip many times. And so the Mounties led a 35-man team to search for him. And the 6th day, so again, 6 days, doesn't seem like very long for whatever, a missing person. They had helicopters, they had a search dog team, and all kinds of volunteers and, whatever. And on June 24th, the search and rescue workers discovered a pair of boots, which they figured had been left by him. So again, the boots all by themselves. And the area surrounding the tracks was subjected to a rigorous search that brings no clues. So literally he left a pair of boots and nothing. Disappeared right out of his boots.
His boots.
His boots.
What? That was another thing too, is a lot of the people with the missing 411s, they produced the signs of like late stage hypothermia, where they would completely get naked, whether they were found alive, dead, or not found at all.
Yeah.
But in a lot of places, like it wouldn't make sense for that. Like they couldn't have gotten hypothermia. But it is like a common trait between a lot of these people. So that was kind of weird, because sometimes it'll be like, late spring, early fall.
Yeah. But then usually you'd find a trail of clothes, right? Because you take your boots off, but when you have hypothermia, you take pretty much everything off, and you end up, it's kind of like almost a trail right to the body.
Yeah, no, like at that stage too, for sure. Like you find something, unless animals took it off. Like in the cold circumstances, I could see how that would be animals like eating a dead body, but in like, when it's early September and fucking they're dying of hypothermia when it only gets to like 40 degrees outside.
Yeah, that doesn't make. And your theory about like wolves or whatever grabbing the boots, that wouldn't make sense, but they're not going to be sitting, like these are like it's like the guy disappeared out of his shoes. They're sitting together.
Well, some
Right?
of them, they never find the boots, and some of them is more of that like hypothermia. They took all their clothes off and they only found like partial remains of the clothes, and the boots are always like sitting up straight, or they're like placed on sticks or something. Like I only listened to like 30 of these fucking things today.
But again, like,
that
I don't
was-
think like this isn't the time of year, and this guy's experienced out there. He does this, right? It's not like, you know, somebody who wandered off and got lost and isn't, you know, used to being outside. You know, he does this all, you know, he's experienced outdoors person. So
Well, you do things all the time and you still get fucked every now and then, right? Like,
I guess, I don't know. Someone, I like to think an alien snatched him right out of his boots.
well, that
The-
was
the-
one theory I
right?
heard, was that Bigfoot grabbed people by their boots and shook them upside down. And that's why you could only find the fucking boots. So,
and then they take off their clothes because they piss their pants in fright. Yeah.
well, Bigfoot
because they're-
got you at that point, buddy.
So Bigfoot's like, ew, you peed your pants. You disgusting. Get rid
That
of
And-
maybe those are the ones he kills, and then the ones that don't pee their pants, he, you know,
become
rescues.
lovers.
They become his brides of the woods. Exactly, Deborah.
No, he feeds them berries. They're mostly children.
So yeah, and anyways, there's like, you know, there's a lot of these, and it's kind of in this triangular space. They're all kind of similar stories, right? We're never found. Nobody's really sure why they're missing. So
Well,
unexplained.
some of my stories they do get found.
Yeah, mine too.
It's only in Canada.
You
It's only in
tell.
Canada. It's only in Canada they don't get found because they don't want to get found.
Well, they get
But-
found headless up in Manhattan. They're all headless though. So
Yeah, I heard a lot of ones where they would like find partial skull, and it was always like a molar or some shit that they would find, and they'd DNA test it back, and I don't know, man.
like just a dude.
Yeah, it was always the molar though. They
Oh, that
would
makes me
find.
think of Blair Witch or something. Finding teeth. That would freak me
Yeah.
out.
My wife said that was a good missing 411.
Yeah, right.
Great movie to watch, everybody.
Right
The
before
original.
camping season. Okay, well, tell me some of yours then. Let's hear the Americans outdo the Canadians for snatching people out of their boots.
Oh, she said it.
Jeremy, you don't look like you're super drunk, so I might just slide in here before I get too drunk.
You better slide in there before you get too drunk, Scott. We need a performance.
A performance. Okay. So this first one is in Mount Shasta, California. Have either of you guys heard of that?
Heard of it? Yes, it's a big UFO hotspot.
So my wife and I actually got dropped off on the middle of the freeway in Mount Shasta. And if you know anything about California, you can't hitchhike on the freeway. We got lucky as fuck. Dude picked us up. He was cool. But this one starts off when a man and a wife and their two kids, they went camping on October 1st. And this is 2010 as well. So like modern day, right? Like a lot of these date back to the 50s and shit. But they were all sitting around the campfire right as it started to get dark. And then the older sister was looking at her brother, who was only 3.5 at the time. And then like she heard something, turned away real quick, looked back, and her brother was fucking gone. So she got up and she went to like, you know, find him around the tent or tree or whatever. And she couldn't find him, told her mom and dad. They all started looking. And then immediately they called the fucking police. So at that point in time, they had hundreds of people out like combing in a grid. This one's one where they actually organized combing a grid of the woods like before an hour. The search goes on for 5 hours, and finally they find him laying down on the top of a bush right next to a trail that like multiple fucking people had already searched. So the kid had to have either been brought back to the spot or like walked himself back to the spot. Immediately afterwards, no one really questions like how the fuck this happened. We found the kid, good to go. Like the parents take him to the hospital and get him checked out, and there's not even a scratch on him. So they end up going on with their daily life. And 3 weeks after the incident, the kid's staying at his grandma's house, and he calls his grandma Cappy. So one day he's sitting at grandma's house and he says, "I like you, Cappy, but I don't like the other Cappy." And the grandmother asks him, "What other Cappy are you talking about?" And he tells her this story that when he was camping, he saw her, and in between their campsite, she like waved him on to follow her. And she takes him to a cave that's full of spiders and women's purses, specifically. Kid's 3.5, right? Like he's not.
That's creepy.
Yeah, he's not fucking like able to fully emphasize shit, but he says there's spiders and women's purses. And then he said that Cappy's head started to glow, and that's when he found out that like, or realized that this isn't my Cappy, this is Cappy number 2. And then Cappy kept asking him questions, and he didn't know how to answer her questions. So Cappy started getting fucking like frustrated with him, and eventually pushed him out of the cave. And that's when he walked back down the mountain, found the trail, and like passed out on the fucking bush like any 3-year-old would. But so that lady, the real Cappy, tells her son, the boy's father, about this story, and he says that he told him the same story, but he thought it was just like, you know, kids' imagination running wild. But then that's when shit starts getting interesting, because the grandmother tells her son that she had went camping at not the same campsite, but in Mount Shasta a year prior to the kid getting abducted, and she had some strange shit happen as well. So she went up there, she was with her friend, and they were sitting by the campfire. And as it started to turn dark, they saw glowing red eyes like peeking through the woods. And, you know, there's a lot of mountain lions and fucking other predators in California. They didn't pay too much attention to it. So they just decided to like stay close to the camper. If shit went down, they'd go into the camper. But then after a while, they started seeing these eyes like coming from every fucking angle, and then they would shine their flashlights. And we're talking not some 1950s shit, some good flashlights. Good fucking camping flashlights. And as soon as they would fucking turn the flashlight on, there was nothing there. The eyes would disappear. There was no animal. Like they couldn't figure it out. So then they decided to go to bed after a while. I don't know why you would do that. Hopefully they had guns. But Cappy goes to bed in her tent, and then her friend goes to bed in his camper. Then she wakes up the next morning and she is face down in fucking dirt outside of her tent. And she's got like a bite mark or an injection or something in the back of her fucking neck. And she feels sick as shit. So, you know, she gets her bearings, wakes up, and she notices that her friend is out of his fucking camper, face down in the fucking dirt. And he has the same like type of marking in the same place in his fucking neck. And he's feeling shitty as well. So then, you know, he tells the son this shit, and they ended up thinking, like, at the time, that they had just gotten bit by a poisonous spider or something, and like freaked out in the middle of the night or whatever the fuck happened, and ended up face down. But then they started comparing this shit. Like, why the fuck did this weird thing happen to me a year ago that I wasn't gonna talk about? Right? Like, maybe it was just a fucking spider. But now that the fucking grandson goes missing and he sees me in the forest, like, maybe some weird shit's going on. So I don't know. In that missing 411 case, which is done, does anybody remember the author that wrote the books?
Yes, I did. I know I have his name in at least one of my stories. Let me give it a quick look-see here. He wrote.
Well, these people went anonymous. They didn't want.
Paulides. That's his last name.
Okay, David Paulides.
I
heard
think
the name like a fucking 1,000 times today.
Yeah, I watched Missing 411 The Hunted, like the documentary he did. He does a really good job.
Another interesting fact to keep in mind about the guy who made these books: he was a detective for the police, but he ended up getting fired or leaving because they found out he was using state money to fund his Bigfoot research. And then later on,
I love it.
It was found out that he started some bogus charity where he was getting famous people's autographs and saying that he was selling them to, like, I don't know if it was autistic kids or whatever, but he was just like said he had this charity so he could get these famous people's autographs, and he ended up keeping them instead of fucking donating them to whatever his fucking cause was.
Oh, good God.
So look that up with a grain of salt.
I honestly, that's some gangsta ass hustling right there.
Yeah, he was a hustler. So keep that in the fucking mind he's got like 10 books now, a Netflix series, a YouTube channel.
But is there another supporting, source of that same story? Because that story is pretty fucking creepy then. It's like a witch or aliens or I don't know what.
Well, yeah, no, that's what, like, that's where I went down the skeptic path. It's in his book, but the fucking family's anonymous. So we have a date, but we have no names to back it up.
Wait a minute. We have
Cappy.
We have an old woman whose head can change shape. We have a cave full of spiders.
I'm going
Pennywise. I'm going Pennywise.
Oh, that makes it even more disbelievable. Unbelievable. She was not camping with the family at that point in time. Both families did camp there frequently.
And Pennywise is an alien, so just saying, Mount Shasta, that's Pennywise's base.
But if they put something in her neck or whatever, they would, kind of track her, and they would know who her family was too, right?
Well, and they had been on camping trips together. Like, they camped there frequently, both families and like together. So maybe the super conspiracy is they're like watching this family and they realize they're connected, and like the alien takes the identity of this person or Bigfoot or whatever the fuck. Like, that's a possibility, right?
That's the storyline for Resident Alien.
There we go.
So, moral of the story: don't trust your grandma on a camping trip.
Especially if she didn't come up with it.
Right.
Well, and he's 3.5, so like, I don't know.
You can trust.
I think the younger the kids, though, the better you can trust their testimony, because he's not making it up for.
No.
Yeah.
My kids made up the most bullshit stories when they were that age. No. My kids made up the most
they made
elaborate lies ever.
But when they're when bad shit happened to them, they might have made shit that wasn't like 100% truthful, but it was still like to the best of their knowledge, right? Like the kid didn't just run off into the woods for 5 hours, have a $500,000 search party looking for him, and then fucking like make up a lie saying, "Oh, I was just up in a cave." Like, I don't know. I think you could believe a 3.5-year-old. They're gonna they'll lie to you, but in that circumstance, they're gonna give you the best truth to their ability of telling the truth.
Well, and I think kids see things or whatever, like they say they're more sensitive, right, to ghosts and whatever other dimensions. So I believe the kids. I believe the kids.
I do too. The biggest thing with that is a lot of people thought it was like aliens. But like if an alien's abducting you, taking you to a cave and asking you questions, is it going to get frustrated and kick your ass outside and make you walk
that
home
is what's
when
funny.
it's done?
I thought when you were first telling the story, I thought you meant his real grandma. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty harsh. She's been abducted and she's getting mad at him. He's not answering questions. But yeah, anyway, but it is funny if it's the aliens too.
It's California, so it could be reptilians.
Yeah, could have been Hillary Clinton. Raise of hands. It was Hillary Clinton.
Must be
2 against 1.
Well, okay. Canadians don't know nothing about Hillary Clinton now. Come on.
Oh, I'm sure they do. They know our news better than we know theirs.
That's all we see. We don't get to see all the stuff that ours are doing. They're trying to hide it all, so they distract us with your news.
Today on Canadian news, we're going to rate the best poutine in this province. What you got next, Scott?
Okay, going into the next one, I got a couple short ones here, and then I'll save the photo that we both picked for you, buddy.
Oh, we both picked the same one. I thought we did.
Yeah, no, you sent me a picture.
That. Okay, yeah.
That's my last one. That's my closer. Okay, so this happened in spring of 1952. This is a cool one. It happened in Ritter, Oregon, 1952. So Keith Perkins and his siblings were all playing outside at their grandfather's ranch, and then the grandfather called him in for lunch. All the kids came in except 2-year-old Keith. So the family went out and started looking for him, and then they shortly called the cops in, and everybody's like driving around, combing the woods, looking for this 2-year-old. And then a couple of hours later, they find footprints of what appears to be a small child, 1952, that is walking alone 4 miles northeast of the ranch. So they track these footprints for at least a couple of miles, and then the tracks just stop. It's like the kids stopped moving altogether. So 20 hours after the kid went missing, he is found 12 miles directly west, so still north of the ranch, face down, laying on the ground. And he's alive. Not a sad story. He's alive. He's got scratches all over his face. And the weird thing is his coat and his hat are like folded up nice and neat right next to him. So the kid's only 2. When they asked him what happened, he said, "A cat scratched my face." After 20 hours, and they asked the kid, he's 2, "What happened to you?" "A cat scratched my face." But the crazy thing is, Les Stroud, aka Survivor Man, he tried to recreate walking the 20-mile stretch in 20 hours, and he couldn't do it. So, I mean, Les Stroud, when he went, there's video of this online. Like, he's got modern day winter clothing, fucking like, crazy shit, which I guarantee a 2-year-old from 1952 didn't have. Just going about their daily life. It's not like they loaded this kid up and said, hey, walk 20 miles. But the kid is 2, 0 survival skills, and he has no idea what barbed wire is. And if you watch the Les Stroud video, like, you have to cross through multiple barbed wire fences, which would explain the scratches on his face being 2. But like, I personally think somebody like picked the kid up and molested the kid and dropped him off, or some weird shit like that happened. But
Or that could be a Bigfoot one.
yeah, maybe one of the
Because a big furry thing that scratched him but took care, that could be a Bigfoot one.
But why would he like fold his jacket and hat like nice and neat next to him and then lay him face down in the snow?
Because they're carrying it gentle, it was never intending to hurt.
Yeah, I don't. The dude was actually interviewed in his adult life, and he, he was 2. It's like,
yeah,
I don't remember shit.
It would be cool to do like regressional hypnosis, when people to find that out. If I had something like that, I would do that just to find out.
Do you think you could go back that far?
Sure, you can.
I have twin sisters, and one of the twins, my sister Holly, she's just like me. She said her first memory is at like 3, and then she's got a couple memories when she's 5, and then they're sporadic throughout, and then when you reach like 10, 13, like you start remembering more shit. But my sister Jill, who's her twin, she swears to God up and down that she remembers being in the womb with Holly and like being a baby, like going through.
Well, and I think, your brain stores all those memories. It's just consciously, honestly, you kind of release a lot of that, but your brain has it stored in there. So I 100% think in hypnosis, you can go back anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know if this dude's still alive. 1952, he'd be what, 70 now. So maybe he's alive. We should try to contact him.
God, if you're watching this, come on our show. We'll do live hypnosis.
Well, I don't know how to do it. Do you know how to do it?
Oh, I'm sure.
We'll find someone. There's
Hypnosis for Dummies book and a couple of glasses of tequila. We'll figure it out.
America. Okay, so this is my last one. And this one's not technically a missing 411, but it could have been. So this shows the other side of the missing 411s that I alluded to earlier, where people are just trying to disappear or game the system. So this goes back to October 6th, 2020, when 38-year-old Holly Portier is reported missing. Little background. This lady is like a real yuppie-duppy spiritualist, crazy lady. And well, before I go any farther, this is my one other fucking picture. Not cave. So look at that. Every picture of her in the mainstream news is like this.
She looks like a reptilian, dude.
Yeah,
What?
like this lady is fucking. This lady is twacked out of her balls.
Oh yeah, that's some tweaker shit.
Motherfucking Adderall shit. Like she shouldn't even realize she's whacked out of her balls. But she's a spiritualist. Okay, so during the pandemic, she loses her job as a nanny and converts to a van life person. Which, no disrespect, that's my retirement plan. So the night of the 5th, so she went out camping on the 6th. But the night of the 5th, she leaves suddenly without telling anyone to Zion National Park in southern Utah. So she's gone on this like day hike, half day hike, and other people hiking in the area had reported seeing her, and she never returns. How many pages I got? Okay, so this is back to the phone thing you were talking about, Deborah. This is 2020, and a van life person who goes on hikes, and she left her phone in the car. How reasonable does that sound? Come on, let's be real. She wanted to get them selfies and record herself going through. So her 19-year-old daughter can't get a hold of her and finally reports her missing. And this makes national fucking news. So 11 days go by in national news of this fucking woman not being found. And finally, on the 12th day, other hikers report seeing her. And they go out and they get her, and she's brought back to civilization. So when the paramedics and police are asking her what happened, she said she had a really bad head injury on day 1, and she couldn't walk out of this half-day hike. So she was injured. Hold up, let me read this. I'm misspelling my notes here. So she just basically sat around for 12 days, and then the hikers found her. She also said that she had survived by drinking the river water in Zion National Park. This is like 3 hours below us, and eating food that she could find. Which the biggest problem with this, and this is what the police caught on to, this is where she's fucked, is that river is loaded with parasites. Like, she wouldn't have made
She'd
it
be
past.
sick.
She would have died if she was drinking that river water straight.
Even if you boil it, though,
She didn't have any supplies, anything. She didn't have a lighter. She didn't have a camping backpack. She didn't have anything. She's like in what we're wearing right now, surviving for 12 days in the desert, which gets, October, it still gets hot, and then it gets super fucking cold. Yeah. So unless she was like trapping field mice, there's not a lot of shit growing in the desert that you can eat in October.
So what do you think she was doing? What was she doing?
We're getting to it. Getting to it. So the police start looking into this shit because they're like, there's no fucking way this woman could have done this. And they find out that one of Holly's friends, who was not like connected to her family, or it's a divorced family, right? So not connected to her daughter. Somebody the daughter doesn't really know. They set up a GoFundMe account the second day she goes missing, and this shit raises $12,000 fucking dollars. And then the police start thinking, she couldn't have lived off of drinking that water, and her head injury, there was no marks on her fucking head. Like, how the fuck could you be knocked out unconscious, not able to make it back from a half-day trip, from one, like, head injury that there's no marks on your fucking head? So, yeah, like, you can go on YouTube right now. Let me look up this bitch's name, or woman's name again. Holly... No, I don't think I'll put it in the show notes. Holly's something or other. It's like French or something. But yeah, there's like multiple news reports on this lady, like all of 2020.
Courtier. Holly Courtier.
Courtier. There we go. Jeremy's
Okay,
got it.
well, I'm not gonna show up next Sunday for our show. I want you guys to start a GoFundMe page.
If you would like to support Deborah's missing
I'm
persons
going hiking
report,
and I ain't coming back. So yeah, support the searches.
so I mean, you've got to imagine this cost hundreds of like probably close to $1 million. They had the whole fucking National Guard and FLIR cameras and people out looking for this lady.
That's the thing. The search and rescue is so expensive. Like she raised $12,000 for herself, but the cost.
Wouldn't even pay.
Holy
She could file bankruptcy, but if her and
Yeah.
her friend went halvesies, that's $6,000 cash. She's living in her van, dude. That's gonna push her on for another 3 to 6 months. But yeah, even though all of that searching cost the taxpayers a fuck-load of money, the police investigators said, we don't want to put any more taxpayer money into investigating her case.
So she got away with it?
She got the fuck away with it. And I think she might have been close with that police, they did a special
Oh my
interview
gosh.
and it was in private and she got away with it.
That is crazy.
But that could have been a missing persons 411 where they're like recovered, but then too much social media, police intervention, local news.
I find it weird how some people, they have the helicopters out, have this and that, and other people, they're like, well, it hasn't been, 3 years yet, so you can't even report. Like, you can't even file a claim, like, go away, and they don't care. It's so weird.
Yeah,
Like, how
no.
some people, they really care, and there's all this effort, and then other people, they're like, eh.
Well, that's
She
the
stays there all the
crazy
time.
thing is the like that was what made this dude who made the books, like that was one of his stories, was the fact that fucking there was a lot of media attention and police and search teams looking for him for like a week, and then it would stop immediately.
Just go away. Yeah.
And that's where the conspiracy of like maybe the national park people are in on it. I think a lot of it's human trafficking and serial killers and
Right.
rapists, and there are some weird ones, but I think a lot of them are just fucked up people.
Yeah, like the headless bodies being found, that's a serial killer, right? Like that's an
Yeah.
MO. But do you think that, because I really actually think this makes sense to me, that government does grab people and then do experiments? And
Oh, I don't doubt that for a second.
yeah, I think, and that would
Yeah.
make sense. Then the park wardens and whatever, they're not going to they'll put enough effort in to look like they've done something, but they're not going to really extend it very far.
Well, and the motive of like, we need the tourism, like we can't tell people
Mhm.
about that. I think it's like a big collaboration of all of that shit. And then some of it is just fucking weird. And some of it might just be hocus pocus lies. I think.
Yeah. Well, and definitely there's probably some people that, do go out there, stage their disappearance, and then go off and lead a life, right? So that's,
Oh, for sure, 100%.
I mean, you must really hate your wife if you're going through all that trouble to
Well, or your
disappear and then
life,
get on a
right?
train and whatever. Yeah.
Like there's a lot of, when I was in school, when I was in high school, my teacher, my science teacher, my biology teacher, he told me that a lot of the homeless people that you'll meet under the bridge, they'll tell you that they were like the mayor or a CEO of this company or like some important person. And, some of them are lying, but some of them aren't. The pressure just fucking gets to them and they fucking snap. And like, I personally lived the life of like drinking half gallons under a bridge, no worries in the world. Like, it's a lot better than all the stress of society, right?
Well, there's something to be said about, like, so when you own a house, that's great, whatever, but then, you know, you have all these belongings, but then you have to have a job to keep the house, to keep the utility,
property taxes.
and it ends up being, you know, almost a noose around your neck sometimes. And you think somebody like a mayor, like, it's just pressure to perform and all this. Like, I can see how sometimes you just like to shrug it all off and not own a fucking thing and just hit the trail, and, you know,
my wife and I had
zero pressure.
Multiple people, well, like multiple people that told us that they were Jesus Christ, but like a lot of people that said they were the mayor of this town or they were this person or whatever. And like, yeah, like some of them were believable, right? There's no property taxes. Why sleep under $100,000 house when you can sleep under $1 million bridge? Like that shit gets to you. Like, that's like absolute freedom. Well, you think Joe Rogan makes $100 million for his Spotify deal, but he's going to need security for the rest of his life. So he is stuck on his fucking job.
Not to mention, when you get to that level, then there's a real relevancy. And you see this with celebrities and whoever, especially. So then there's this immense pressure to produce, you know, keep relevant, whatever, keep showing up. I mean, it turns into a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah. Well, and then like let's take Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast did I was just having this conversation with my son. He's done all of his videos in like 7 different fucking languages. So even as a fucking millionaire, this motherfucker isn't going to be able to go to like the Philippines or Thailand or Brazil or so. Like, everybody knows who he is. He is going to have to keep producing these videos over and over and over again to pay for his security. But when you're like, you know, the mayor of who gives a fucksville, and like the pressure gets to you, you can just fucking hit the rails and go, dude. And then like every day you wake up, when you want to go, you can just go. Nobody knows who the fuck you are. You are
it is
totally
ultimate
free.
freedom. Yeah.
Besides the police. Like, that's the catch-22. Because the police, when me and my wife were on the road, we were getting pulled over and our IDs ran, and fucking cops said you stole this car, or like search your bag for this. Every 3 days on average, somebody would fuck every 3 days. When I was in LA County, cops would pull you over at least twice a year just to run your names for warrants, which is crazy when I look at videos of LA County. But yeah, no, like, I'm going off on a fucking tangent, Jeremy.
But you think if you went off and lived in the wilderness or whatever and built yourself a little cabin out in the middle of absolute nowhere, I mean, what a hassle-free life, right?
Oh yeah, no, like,
I mean, if you ate off the land, and, you know, it'd be kind of boring, but
I don't think it is boring, dude. When we went to the Rainbow Gathering, that was the first time we heard about Pirate Village. And then like we went to Berkeley and heard a little bit more. And then we went to fucking Portland, heard a little bit more. And like, we're just trying to find this place. Like, it sounded like fucking paradise. I doubt it's still around, though. Like, paradise has to end eventually. But yeah, it was just a bunch of crusty kids that went off and lived in the fucking woods. And then, you know, they got clean and sober. They grew marijuana, but like, no more heroin, no more vodka, like, just out there in nature doing the shit. So
yeah, I mean, there's something appealing about that, right? I don't know, just selling everything and not having it, the burden of possessions, I guess. I don't know.
That's
But
what
then on the
Fight
other
Club
hand,
was
I'm pretty
about.
much a princess. I don't know if I want to, sleep under bridges and stuff and get cold. So
Well, the Pirate
it's hard.
Village, they built tree houses and like they had chickens out there and a bunch of shit. Like it was paradise, right?
Interesting.
But
I heard
I'm
this
sure it
interesting
didn't
thing about they were
last.
saying Jesus coming again, and I think it was somebody in America, and they're like, no, if Jesus comes again, he'll show up in America first. And I think it was Sadhguru. Do you know who that is?
Mm-mm.
He teaches all the spiritual stuff, and he's like, but think about it. He's like, if Jesus shows up there, who's gonna follow him? Because everybody has to like be at work Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning because they got a mortgage, they got all these bills, whatever. Like, who's gonna follow? Who's gonna just be able to follow Jesus everywhere?
Well, that's
Like, that's
what I
kind of interesting.
never understood about Americans thinking Jesus, like the Mormons. I live in Utah right now, right? They believe they're one of the 12 tribes of Israel, like the Rastafarians. Like maybe the Rastafarians are closer to the 12 tribes of Israel than you Scandinavian fucks are. Like, why do you think Jesus is coming to America? That makes no sense.
That makes
They
no
didn't
sense at
even
all. Yeah.
discover that fucking land at the time.
Yeah.
Sorry
I
to
don't
all
know. I believe, like, I honestly believe God and heaven and universal, light is all around us already. It's all part of us already. I don't think I've changed my views on God and everything a lot from being Catholic to now. Now
Yeah.
I'm just very spiritual.
Who saw the Dalai Lama suck that kid's tongue?
Ew.
Jeremy? He's not even wearing headphones.
He's checked out. Where are you? Get back on here.
I'm right here. I've been
Headphones.
here.
Did you see the Dalai Lama suck that kid's tongue?
No.
Okay, I'll throw that up on video after you're done.
It's disturbing.
Yeah, it's
I'm
pretty
sure-
pedophile-y.
Well, it's religion, so there you go. But that's all religion is. But
It is, yeah, it's gross.
so the first case I came across, which I've heard all mine before, but I found this one interesting, and also because it has something to do with Massachusetts as well.
Can we take a break? You and Deborah have free talk. I'm gonna take a piss. I want to hear your stories.
All right. You could have taken a piss during all your stories about random homelessness.
I know, right? Yeah, that was a very important part of the show, apparently.
Apparently, we're an hour and 22 minutes in.
What do you think? Is it freedom to have no possessions and just?
No, that's hell.
I know. I think that the idea sounds romantic and cool, but then I'm such a princess. I don't think I could.
No, I mean, the goal of life is to have things and to have a family and provide for that family. Like, if you're homeless, then like, how are you gonna do that?
I think honestly, so the goal is to like have the home and all that, but have it paid for, so then you're still not stressed, because it's the stress you're trying to get away from, the freedom to do whatever you want, right?
I mean, if you're a
So you
rich
could be
kid,
homeless and have no money, or you can have a lot of money and still do whatever you want. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, if you're a rich kid who can go traveling the world with no worries in the world because you have a magic card, your father gives you that pays for everything, then like that's different. That's freedom. That's true freedom.
That's what I need. Where's the father that's gonna adopt me? I need
Deborah, at this point you just need a sugar daddy.
I think I'm beyond that age too.
Not true. There are sugar daddies who like matured women.
All right, hit me up, you guys. You're out there.
You may have to do some 50 Shades of Grey type shit, but they like them.
Oh dear.
I mean, hell, I've gotten so many spam things where it's like, I'll be your sugar mama, and I'm like, no, you won't. Like even if I fall through in that, I guarantee it's not gonna get me anything. So yeah.
I had the weirdest thing. I was selling some shoes, and I wear a lot of high heel shoes. Just the nature of my work or whatever, I dress up a lot. And so I was selling these shoes on Facebook Marketplace. It's not on any weird site or anything. And I had a guy with a shoe fetish, a foot fetish, and he was saying he, pay good money if you stomp on him. So I was like, what? You're on the wrong site.
That's
Totally creepy.
my
Totally
kids,
creepy.
my kids' future career. My two older sons want to be foot fetish models. And they tell me this,
No.
and I said, "You gotta do some
No,
pretty
it was
weird
totally
shit
weird.
with your feet nowadays."
Dead ass. Like I told my
No.
wife the other day, like, we need money. I might have to go on OnlyFans to be a foot fetish model.
Dude, I guarantee there's so much competition.
Yeah, but they don't have size 17 feet.
Oh, you might have a plus there.
You have a target audience there, probably. Yeah.
So me and my wife worked for this landscaper, and he had a foot. I was introduced by my buddy Shane, and he had his wife Jessica. And this dude was like into foot fetish. And like, long story short, one of the stories he told me, it was like, yeah, these two girls, they needed money, so I just wanted to smell their feet, and I like them stinky and all this shit.
This is so weird.
He never asked my wife and I, the same guy that would pay us in like radiator fluid and weed, same guy. He never asked my wife and I, but then like a couple years later, we found out that my buddy Shane and his wife Jess, he had like fucking like touched their feet and smelled them, and like
You
that
are
was
outing your friends. What are you doing?
Well, they outed. Everybody knows at this point. Like we tight circle.
This is probably the scariest thing on this whole episode. Is the foot
That was
talk.
like that was a fun thing we all talked about. Like,
Well, speaking of scary,
Hilarious.
let me get on my stories here so we can wrap it up, as we've been going an hour and a half. And
what is the bracket for next week? And
it's Colts.
Brandy and John,
good.
I'm gonna ask them if they're still coming. You're bringing Chansey.
I have to talk to them about it, but I can see if it'll work.
Deborah,
I'll see if I can snatch somebody for that. Yeah.
get the most
yeah.
uptight motherfucker you can find.
Yeah.
Me and Chancey do that every time, and then the looks in their faces when we say things is hilarious.
And then Brittany's coming. Go on with your story.
The fuck she is. But
Who controls the Zoom account?
who controls the bracket? Oh. But
Okay.
my first story takes place in February 1977. When my parents graduated from high school, actually. A 24-year-old man named Stephen Kubacki was cross-country skiing through the snow near Lake Michigan. Once he reached the edge of the lake, he took his skis off to sit down and rest. When he got up to leave his own... What the fuck? When he got up to leave his own... There should be a comma there. What the fuck? When he got up to leave, his own tracks were gone, and he became lost. The last thing he remembers was walking through the snow, feeling numb and exhausted. He blacked out. In the blink of an eye, it was spring. He was lying in a grassy field in the middle of a forest, wearing clothes that weren't his. Sitting next to him was a stranger's backpack containing running shoes and glasses that did not belong to him either. He hiked to the nearest town and asked a local resident where he was. They told him he was in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which is about an hour from my house. He was 700 miles away from where he had been skiing. His aunt and father lived in Pittsfield, so he knocked on his aunt's door. His family was in shock, hugging him and asking where he had been. Kubacki had been missing for 14 months. When he first went missing, the search team found his poles and skis at the edge of the lake. There was only one set of his footprints leading toward the water, but none walking away. They can only assume he drowned himself in the freezing lake. He had been missing for so long, everybody assumed he must be dead. The official explanation, is that he had amnesia and had been wandering in a fugue state. But even doctors are baffled by this case. It's incredibly rare for someone to lose their memory for such a large chunk of time, and still leave so many unanswered questions. His story was included in a psychology case study in a book by Amnesia. But even experts have been unable to figure out what actually happened. He had already earned a degree in linguistics before he went missing, but he was so fascinated by his own case that he went on to earn his PhD in psychology. He wanted answers about his own disappearance, and yet he still couldn't find them. Solving the mystery of his missing year became an obsession, and he went on to publish a book called Mathematical Foundations of Existence, Gödel, Quantum, God, and Beyond. In it, he writes about the possibility of alternate universes. Which I've heard this case before, but what do you think of this case, Scott?
Fucking commas, dude. That's what I think of this case forever and ever.
But think about it. You're cross-country skiing, and all of a sudden you wake up, you black out, and you wake up 14 months later, you're waking up and you're in different clothes and
I think this dude went on fucking vacation, dude. That's what I think. Personally. Like, that's the perfect excuse, right?
I don't know. I mean, I can't find nothing about his family or like if he was married or anything, so I don't know, but
I know that it does suck, like these missing 411 cases. Like one of mine, they wanted to be anonymous. Anonymous is code name for I made this shit up.
Or do you think it's ever like it's like for insurance or something, you know, like the whole family's in on it? And
see, that would be fun. And one of our viewers needs to look into this. Like, check all these people, make your own YouTube channel and find out like if they came up with insurance claims or like profited off of this shit, like the last lady I talked about. We got $12,000 on GoFundMe.
And the next story I have has some synchronicity in it as well with that last one, but it's more recent. In February 2018, a Canadian man, oh God,
I know
named Danny Paulides was on a ski trip with his friends in New York. It was around 2:00 p.m. and they'd been skiing for hours. They were getting ready to go to the lodge, and Danny said that he wanted to go on one more run down the mountain before their lunch break. By 4 p.m., Danny was failing to return any calls or texts, and his friends were concerned. They began searching for him, and after being unable to find him, they told the employees at the lodge that he was missing. A team of 130 people scoured the mountain without finding him. 6 days later, his wife received a phone call. She didn't recognize the number, and it sounded far away and staticky. It was Danny's voice. He was incoherent and confused, and then hung up on the phone. She called the number back and pleaded with him to call 911 for help, so he did. He had no idea where he was. He just described his surroundings. When the paramedics finally found him, he was still wearing all of his ski gear and in need of medical assistance. He was holding a brand new iPhone, and someone had cut his hair. Somehow, he ended up in Sacramento, California at the airport terminal car rental depot. He was 3,000 miles away from where he disappeared. He couldn't remember how he got there, and he had no idea what day it was. When he learned where he was and how long people had been looking for him, he got very overwhelmed and emotional. The leading theory is that he was kidnapped in the back of a big rig truck, but no proof has ever surfaced.
I think that dude was like drinking Popov and shooting speedballs, and he ended up in Sacktown. Dude. Come on now. No, nobody else believes in that.
No, because it's just too weird. Like, I don't think even if you're going on like a drug binge, you don't disappear 3,000 miles away.
Oh shit.
Why is there a story behind the Scott? Why?
Well, sometimes you disappear in, different cities and shit. It could happen.
But my third story here is more along the line of Scott's stories, kind of.
Ooh,
it was Father's Day weekend, 1969. Summer of 69. But 6-year-old Dennis Martin was at Smoky Mountains National Park with his brother, father, and grandfather. They camped out for the night, and the next day, a man approached Mr. Martin, asking if his sons wanted to play with his kids since they were about the same age. Dennis's father agreed, and the children started a big game of hide and seek. Dennis's father kept his eyes on his son from a distance. Dennis hid behind a tree, and when the other kids jumped to reveal themselves, Dennis didn't. His father got up and ran over to where he had last seen his son, and he was gone. The Appalachian Trail was nearby, so he ran at full speed for 2 miles, yelling and calling for Dennis, but couldn't find his son. They called park rangers and spent all night looking for him. The search for Dennis Martin became massive. The FBI, Green Berets, park rangers, and local volunteers searched for 6 weeks. The only thing they found belonging to Dennis was 1 sock and 1 shoe. They never found a body. Paulides, the guy who did all the missing 401, conducted interviews and dug through files with testimonies. The Key family had been camping in the park that same weekend, and they asked park rangers where they could go see bears. They were told where to go, and then when they arrived, they reported hearing a scream. The child pointed at the top of the hill, saying that he saw a bear. The father said it looked more like a scary-looking, wild, hairy mountain man dodging behind trees while carrying something over its shoulder.
I heard this one was a 3-legged, bipedal, human-looking Bigfoot motherfucker.
3-legged?
Yeah, it was a 3-legged, and I heard numerous stories of bears scooping up children, but this story I heard specifically, they said it was not 3-legged, but 2-legged, 1-armed.
So ape-like kind of movements.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, no, they all think it's a bear, though. Do you think, because all of these missing 411s, they report a bear. Do you think our, a description of Bigfoot might be off, and maybe it is more like a bear that has...
There are
or do people just go to the closest thing that makes logical sense that's out there for sure, right?
There are different species of Bigfoot, so there are ones that look more like bears and ones that look more like humans.
Well, and bears will run on their hind feet,
not that long, and not dodging around trees and not dodging.
There's a lot of them.
Not dodging
that
around
shit
trees
on
and shit.
YouTube.
Not dodging around trees and shit while carrying something. Come on.
I don't know.
I do know, and no.
I think a bear would carry something in its mouth, like it would clamp on and drag.
Yeah.
Carry it that way versus carrying it.
Even if it was an actual bear, there are a lot of stories of bears scooping up kids and then bringing them to their little hut or tree fort or cave or whatever, and then actually feeding these fucking kids and keeping them alive for days.
Well, I mean, you always hear the kid that falls into the orangutan thing in the zoo or in the wild, it's weird, a lion will, for whatever reason, adopt a little tiny deer thing and it makes no sense, right? That's its food, it shouldn't be. But every once in a while, there's this interaction and they care for them. It's weird.
But why would bears actively steal children? When I've heard the tiger story of when a fucking a tiger has it wasn't a bunny, but it was something that the fucking thing would eat, and it was a baby, and he made sure that all the other tigers knew, you fuck with this, I will kill you. And then it brings it food and shit.
So this brings me to if you believe in reincarnation, and then some people believe that animals have souls and whatever. So do you think sometimes there's just a special recognition between animal souls or something like that?
Well, I believe my dog Miller, man, he was something different. But yeah, I do believe that you have a pit bull and it could be the meanest motherfucker in the world. He's not fucking with the toddler.
Yeah, right. They are very protective, yeah.
Yeah.
But especially with 2 wild animals where one should eat the other, every, it is its food, everything would make, and yet somehow there's a bond and a connection and protection there. That makes me think that particular little baby deer or whatever it is, has some sort of a soul that connected with the soul of the tiger or whatever, that animal, right? The predator and the prey. in that instance. So I think there is souls in animals and stuff, and they have these weird connections sometimes.
We had at one point in time in an apartment, we had a German Shepherd Mastiff mix with a weasel with a bunny rabbit, and they were the best of buds.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they just have fun.
All right. Well, I got one more left for you, Scott.
And then we got to bring up the caves.
Yep. And then we got to wrap it up because it's been long enough that no one's going to want to watch this whole thing. But
Oh, we got watchers too.
yeah,
It's like
In
782 people.
at this moment, in 1928, a newly married couple named Bessie and Glenn Hyde wanted to take a boat down the Colorado River, which runs through Grand Canyon National Park. The river was hundreds of miles long and would take several days to make the journey. Glenn had been preparing for their honeymoon for a long time. He built his own 20-foot boat that was very safe. He wanted to win prize money for a new speed record to travel down the Colorado River. And if they succeeded, Bessie would make her go on the record as the first woman to ever make the trip. Important to have goals. During their journey, they would stop to hike some of the trails. They met a photographer named Emery Kolb, who took pictures of them and later gave the photos to the police. When they never arrived at their destination, Glenn's father became very worried. He asked the park rangers to send an airplane over the river, and they spotted the couple's boat. It was floating upright with no sign of it ever being overturned. The supplies were still in the boat as well, but the couple was nowhere to be seen. The story of Bessie and Glenn Hyde has been retold so many times it has become sort of a legend. Like stories of Bessie's ghost spot standing in the river. There are multiple theories. In 1971, an elderly woman claimed that she witnessed Glenn abusing Bessie, and Bessie stabbed him and ran away. The woman later recanted her story, however, saying she made up for attention. A few years later, the unidentified body of a man in his 20s was found buried near the cabin of the photographer Emery Kolb. The man had a bullet in his skull. It was determined that this was not the body of Glenn Hyde, but has still led some people to believe that since Kolb was one of the last people to see them alive, he could have murdered them. What do you think of that one?
Murder.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are.
Murder.
Yeah.
Murder, She Wrote?
Yeah. Red rum.
That was a
Red rum.
great fucking TV show. Come on now. The old
Never
lady.
seen it.
Oh my God. You never saw Murder, She Wrote?
Before my time,
Oh my
Scott.
God.
It was not before your time. It was on like daytime television during summer vacation.
It's so cute. You know what I love is like some nosy old lady is telling the police, like she gets to know all the details about the murder, and the police chief is like bowing to her. It's like,
Have you guys heard the well, Jeremy hasn't, but like the conspiracy that like this bitch is a serial killer? Or this lady is a conspiracy killer.
I've heard the theory.
Yeah, because like she's around all these fucking murders.
I know,
and
right?
just happens across them, and there's only like 20 where she's away from her town. So it's like, how the fuck did this many
Go to bed,
murders
Mochi.
take place in your town?
Go to bed.
Okay, before we go any further, the first story I told, the anonymous one where the kid was in the cave and the grandma felt the stuff, I got that from Mr. Ballin. And he's on YouTube. He's like fucking, what are we talking? Mission 411. I don't know.
Missing 411.
Missing 411. That's his whole channel is Missing 411. I got that story from him. So I did want to give him credit before I got out of here.
yeah, he's good. I like listening to his stuff.
I heard him today. But
Oh, really?
yeah, he
No,
was
I
pretty
listened
good.
to him quite a bit.
Mr. Ballin, folks.
Mm.
So what are we doing next week, Jeremy? What's our bracket on?
As I told you a few minutes ago, Scott, next week's bracket.
Drink the deuce.
next week's bracket will be a cults bracket. So we get to decide what cult we love the most.
Oh, I don't remember. You probably said that when I was taking a piss.
No,
No,
I
you were there.
will rewatch the video and
Thank
edit it down to
Thank you,
where
Deborah.
I was taking a piss.
I was a
and
witness.
edit
I
this
was there.
part out. Okay,
So to
so
make it interesting, I think we should all come up with a juice that we're gonna drink as we do this.
I got my juice right here.
I only drink Keystone Light.
There, that's
Whoa,
my
what the
my
fuck
juice.
happened?
But
My juice. I got my sangria.
Oh, sangria, that's good. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
I did want to mention I'm going to buy my children some high C bottles,
Oh
big
god.
old gallon ones, so then I can very discreetly not have to leave to go to the bathroom.
Ew! Don't tell us that. Oh, there goes all our viewers.
No. See if you can guess, viewers, what time in the video Scott took a piss in the bottle, and you can win a prize.
Okay, who's buying the prizes? I'm not buying the prizes. I'm the one.
The prize is
Filling
they get
the
to come on the
bottle.
show.
Yeah.
That way it's free.
Well, maybe
But-
we'll send you the bottle. There you go.
Oh,
Ain't
slightly used. It's been through the
ain't
dishwasher. It's
Slightly
okay.
used.
It's disgusting. Ugh.
sell Scott's urine to the government. Maybe they'll come experiment on him.
Okay, before we get out of here,
Wow.
though, Jeremy, we both had that picture. This is like very interesting because the missing 411s do come out of certain places in America.
Show the picture. Just show the picture, and then we'll get into it. You can't do justice without a picture.
Nope, I got it right. Yeah. Is this thing in the way? Do you guys see a big green thing in the way of the picture?
No.
Okay, so these are the cave systems where this is where the missing 411s are located.
Okay.
And
You're
these,
showing
is
the
this the-
well, yeah, no, I showed it backwards. These are the cave systems in America. This is where all the missing 411s are. But if you look close, tell them what it is, Jeremy.
This highly blends into, and we touched on this before, but it highly blends into the hollow earth theory that all these cave systems are connected, and that these abductions could be part Bigfoot, part Dogman, or part pale crawlers, or whatever the fuck else is living in those caves.
Something's living
But
in
I've
the
also heard that
caves.
the government has like
They have
access to this, and they have tunnels, and they're doing like this makes the most sense of everything. Like everything, this is how all these cryptids get around all this. I don't know.
I don't think this would be government tunnels because, like,
No,
can you
these are-
guys see my mouse?
Those are natural, right? Like 2D.
Yeah, this shit's
these are
all natural.
Munchkin. Shut up.
The
Okay,
one,
so who's going splunking, or what
The-
is that called?
These caves are unexplored for the most part too.
Yeah.
I brought this up in one of our, I don't remember which episode it was,
I brought it up
But
in our
the
Dogman
New
episode and our
York-
Bigfoot episode.
to like this area. It was past Pennsylvania, but New York to Pennsylvania. This blue line is the largest cave system in America. Like, it's totally unexplored. And then like we get back into ancient Indian lore, and that brings us back to the Green Children, where they were the Hollow Earth children. Did we do an episode on that, or did I just
No,
listen to
I've
that
never even
one?
heard that. That sounds interesting.
There's not a lot of shit. Like, I don't think
There's
we could
not.
do an hour on it.
We can't. We'd have to find some topic they fit into and then do that as part of it.
I believe the fucking bird shit, the general bird shit, like, I think that's all bullshit because that was found
What's
Like,
the bird shit?
so there was this General Bird, and he flew to Antarctica, and that's when the Aryan nation took him down to the
Okay.
center of the earth and all this crap. And like, that's the main theory for the hollow earth shit. But like, this was a diary found after his kids sold it to a random stranger. So it wasn't even like he gave it to his son and his son revealed his diary. It's like he gave his diary to his son and his son sold it to a random stranger, and that random stranger fucking made up all sorts of crazy shit. Like, I was a hardcore hollow earth believer until I found out that. My sister's a flat earther. Oh. But this cave map, like where these missing 411s go, like I don't know if that's
Yeah.
serial killers or like, you know, maybe the cartel has some shit where they're fucking like, you know, they know where to abduct people and get them out from one place to another, or if it is some crazy shit. It is weird though.
That is weird how it just literally matches. Like you could put one map on top of the other and it matches right up.
Well, like look at this. Can you guys see the mouse?
Mhm.
Like this little dot right here. to
Yeah, it
that
matches
one.
right up,
Like,
right?
yeah, no, that's pretty fucking nuts. Pretty fucking nuts.
I think we should do some Hollow
What
Earth. You know,
what state is that, Scott?
One I don't care about. Is that where
what I
you
don't
live?
care about.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
What
not.
about Canada? Where's our tunnels? Is there like Hollow Earth tunnels going around?
You actually said something, and I checked this map off screen, and I was like, "Yeah, there's no Canada here."
What?
You know, it'd be crazy is to see the South America version of these maps.
Right.
But they don't even fucking report like missing children and shit.
Mm.
Or missing people in general. So like,
No, you go missing down there, they assume an animal ate you.
or like the fucking cartels sold you to sex slavery.
So what is your number one theory on all these missing people? Like each of you. Is it a serial killer? Is it alien? What is it? What do you 100% believe the most people go missing because of?
I'll let you go first, Jeremy.
I don't have one theory. I mean, each case has a different possibility, really. I mean, I definitely believe it's I definitely believe it's cryptid related to some degree. Because I mean, Lon Strickler, when he was on my show, he's a paranormal investigator and in Pennsylvania, and a big one. Like he does Phantom and Monsters radio on a lot of different platforms. He even has had reports of dragons in Pennsylvania mines. Right where Scott was showing the biggest cave system in America, there's reports of dragons coming out of those caves.
Crazy.
So the amount of different cryptids that could be living in those caves and just coming out and getting snacks on people here and there, who the fuck knows?
I think it's more of like everything. Like I think there's some human trafficking. I think there are a lot of like significant others. I don't want to say like boyfriends, because some of these cases it seems like the girlfriends are like, fuck you, bitch. I think that plays a role. I think there's a lot of like fucking pedophile shit going on. And then I think some of it is like definitely out there. I don't know if it's supernatural, but I think like maybe some of it is. Like some of it's weird as fuck. Like the people seeing the bears scoop up the children, like bears can't scoop up children, and then like, why the fuck would a bear feed kids berries?
See, and I think so, alien / cryptids. And then I'm big on the government snatching people, and they
Yeah.
have their own little tunnel systems, and they're doing experiments, and they're doing whatever. They think people won't notice these people going missing. The trafficking thing, yeah, that's a real thing.
I think the trafficking thing is dirty. I think if like maybe your government, it's dirty. Sorry, Deborah. But like, I think our government, like, I think they're gonna make that shit clean as fuck. Like, no clue. Is what.
How do you mean? I mean, you have a president that snitched children on.
Yeah, and he's not arrested, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think they will fucking anything that comes out, like, they'll get rid of it, right? Like Fox News, Idaho, Channel 5, like, don't post that. Fuck you. Type shit. And
Yeah,
then
it's
that
pretty.
anchor disappears.
That is one of the most disturbing things in the world right now, is the whole child trafficking thing.
All right, well, let's.
And the normalization of it.
What about the Restrict Act? You guys don't have to deal with that. We have to deal with that. Like, that's gonna fuck us hardcore. They're like, if you have a VPN 20 years, like, that's fucking crazy.
Well, before we get into political shit, I think we should wrap it up.
Cut her off before we get cut off. Yeah. Yeah.
We're already cut off. We talked about Hillary Clinton.
One of us does. One of us.
Okay, so we got Deborah's bringing someone.
I'm going to bring someone. I'm going to try very hard to bring an uptight person who doesn't believe in any of this.
Well, it's cult. It's cults. There's no believing it. We know it happened.
Oh, that'll be a fun
but
one. Send me the list and make sure I read it so I can.
I will try to send some. It'll be my job had a dumpster fire on Friday, so I have a paid day off tomorrow. So I will work on this first thing tomorrow morning while I have my coffee.
So how are we like, are we saying which cult leader we like best? Like,
no. I'll explain to you later.
okay.
How
Because I'm
drunk
like,
are we
I don't know.
showing up to
Jim
the
Jones has nice
show?
glasses, so he's number one. Like, I don't know. That's gross.
It's not about the leaders, it's about the cult in general, but
Okay.
we'll see.
Okay.
But cult in general, because some of them don't really have like one. Not all of them have like a Charles. Not all of them have like a Charles Manson or like a
Charles
freaking
Manson is the CIA. Come on.
or like a Jim Jones. Like they don't all have like one person that leads them. Like some of them are just a bunch of nut jobs together. So
some of them
Now
is
you're
like, how
talking
does
about
anyone
Pirate
listen to
Village.
the weirdo?
But let's
Okay,
wrap this.
it'll be
Let's
fun.
wrap this up.
Mhm.
Okay, let me stop the live stream. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Sweet dreams.
That was a fun episode. Hold up, let me. I'll edit that shit out. Whatever.
That was a little too much tequila, but that's okay.
No, you're gonna need twice as much for the bracket.
For the cult.
Yeah.
You gonna start the recording, Scott?
Well, I got the recording on the computer. I edited that out anyway. The live stream stopped.
Well, I know that, but all right, but yeah, I gotta go. I still hear my kids up, and it's fucking 11 o'clock, so I gotta go.
Yeah.
That was a long episode. Yep.
You're bringing Chansey. I didn't even realize how long it was.
I still have to confirm that with Chansey, but I'm sure he'll be down, but we'll
You
see.
tell him we told him he's gonna
That's
be there.
right. I went to like 3 of your fucking live.
Oh, I know.
bracket things.
I'll tell him the great Malachi demands his presence.
That's right, Malachi. I gotta still make sure, like John Buckles and Brandy said they were coming like 3 weeks ago.
If
so,
you guys cannot get the people you
You
wanna
can
bring,
always find people, yeah.
let me know and I'll reach out to all my different resources to find people. But
oh,
still,
dude,
like,
It was good.
I had like 6 people that wanted to come on that couldn't make it to the last one. So
well,
it'll be fun.
let me know. And Brittany is barred, but yeah, let me know.
Brittany is
Yeah,
barred.
Brittany is definitely a cast member on every one of ours.
I think if
Yeah,
we ever
right.
do a live actual, tour of like investigation or something, we should bring her along.
Oh, absolutely.
Why?
Brittany just shows up.
Live,
no one
can you imagine her?
She just shows up in my life.
So no one believes us, Deborah? Because that's all would happen.
I don't think so, because Brittany would shit all over like a Wendigo right in front of us.
Robert the doll is like, I can't fucking take this bitch. Like, she's too,
no.
I can't do this. This is too much for
Whoa,
me.
where'd he go?
All right, I gotta go.
No.
My dog. We took
Okay,
off my dog's cone because we felt bad. And he keeps trying to go lick his stitches. So I gotta
My
go.
dog was being an asshole today too.
let him eat him.
He was so.
Let me the stitches, Scott. So he
Yeah.
gets.
No.
So he opens up and bleeds to death.
His
Yeah, no.
tongue is an antibiotic. Come on now.
He'll bleed
Yeah.
to death if the stitches